Hello there. This is Heirs to the Kingdom channel, and today's lesson we're doing chapters 29, 30, and 31 in the book of Job. If you're new to this, it's the Bible study channel going through the King James Bible, not skipping anything as Scripture's command. So if you would, please like, subscribe, and share this content, and let's get started. So last we left off, Job was answering all three of them, but I can't remember exactly which one's the last one speaking to Job, but this is one of his final rebuttals to his so-called friends. They want to have this, I think, Elihu guy. He's going to, he's not even part of the conversation, but he jumps in because, he doesn't like that Job successfully defended himself. But let's go ahead and jump in here and finish up with the rebuttal that Job was saying to his friends. Chapter 29, verse 1. Moreover, Job continued his parable and said, Oh, that I were as in months past, as in the days when God preserved me, when his candle shine upon my head, and when by his light I walk through darkness, as I was in the days of my youth, when the secret of God was upon my tabernacle, when the Almighty was yet with me, when my children were about me, when I washed my steps with butter, and the rock poured me out rivers of oil. When I went out to the gate through the city, when I prepared my seat in the street, the young men saw me and hid themselves, and the aged arose and stood up. The princes refrained talking and laid their hand on their mouth. The nobles held their peace, and their tongue cleaved to the roof of their mouth. When the ear heard me, then it blessed me, and when the eye saw me, it gave witness to me, because I delivered the poor that cried, and the fatherless, and him that had none to help him. The blessing of him that was ready to perish came upon me, and I caused the widow's heart to sing for joy. I put on righteousness, and it clothed me. My judgment was as a robe and a diadem. So, mostly what we're talking about here is Job's talking about when God was with him so much that he poured out godliness that no one dare speak against him, and everybody knew to listen to him because of his wisdom and how God worked through him. And he's still talking about it. He's like, where did this go? What happened? But yes, let's continue on here. I was eyes to the blind, and feet was I to the lame. I was a father to the poor, and the cause which I knew not I searched out. And I brake the jaws of the wicked, and plucked the spoil out of his teeth. Then I said, I shall die in my nest, and I shall multiply my days as the sand. My root was spread out by the waters, and the dew lay all night upon my branch. My glory was fresh in me, and my bow was renewed in my hand. Upon me men gave ear, and waited, and kept silence at my counsel. After my words they spake not again, and my speech dropped upon them. And they waited for me as for the rain, and they opened their mouth wide as for the latter rain. If I laughed on them, they believed it not, and the light of my countenance they cast not down. I chose out their way, and sat chief, and dwelt as a king in the army, as one that comforteth the mourners. But now they that are younger than I have me in derision, whose fathers I would have disdained to have set with the dogs of my flock. Yea, whereto might the strength of their hands profit me, in whom old age was perished? For want and famine they are solitary, fleeing into the wilderness, in former time desolate and waste, who cut up mallows by the bushes, and juniper roots for their meat. They were driven forth from among men. They cried after them as after a thief, to dwell in the cliffs of the valleys, in caves of the earth, and in the rocks. Among the bushes they brayed, under the nettles they were gathered together. They were children of fools, yea, children of base men. They were viler than the earth. And now am I their song, yea, I am their byword. They abhorred me, they flee far from me, and spare not to spit in my face. Because he hath loosed my cord and afflicted me, they have also let loose the bridle before me. Upon my right hand rise the youth, they push away my feet, and they raise up against me the ways of their destruction. They mar my path, they set forward my calamity, they have no helper. They came upon me as a wide breaking in of waters in the desolation. They rolled themselves upon me. I paused in the wrong part that says, I'm going to reread 14. I read it wrong. They came upon me as a wide breaking in the waters. In the desolation, they rolled themselves upon me. Yeah, for some odd reason, I was seeing that colon somewhere else. Sorry about that. Anyways. My dyslexia kicked in on me. Let's continue on. 15. Terrors are turned upon me. They pursue my soul as the wind, and my welfare passeth away as a cloud. And now my soul is poured out upon me. The days of affliction have taken a hold upon me. My bones are pierced in me in the night season, and my sinews take no rest. By the great force of my disease is my garment changed. It bindeth me about as the collar of my coat. He hath cast me into the mire, and I am become like dust and ashes. I cry unto thee, and thou dost not hear me. I stand up, and thou regardest me not. Thou art become cruel to me. With thy strong hand thou opposest thyself against me. Thou liftest me up to the wind. Thou causest me to ride upon it, and dissolvest my substance. For I know that thou wilt bring me to death, and to the house appointed for all living. Howbeit he will not stretch out his hand to the grave, though they cry in his destruction. Did not I weep for him that was in trouble? Was not my soul grieved for the poor? When I looked for good, then evil came unto me, and when I waited for light, there came darkness. My bowels boiled and rested not. The days of affliction prevented me. I went mourning without the sun. I stood up and I cried in the congregation. I am a brother to dragons and a companion to owls. My skin is black upon me, and my bones are burned with heat. My harp also is turned to mourning, and my organ into the voice of them that weep. Chapter 31. I made a covenant with mine eyes. Why then should I think upon a maid? I said it right. So why then? I'm sorry. Wait a minute. So did I say men? Why then should I think upon a maid? For what portion of God is there from above? And what inheritance of the Almighty from on high? Is not destruction to the wicked, and a strange punishment to the workers of iniquity? Doth not he see my ways and count all my steps? If I have walked with vanity, or if my foot hath hasted to deceit, let me be weighed in an even balance, that God may know mine iniquity. If my step hath turned out of the way, and mine heart walked after mine eyes, and if my blot hath cleaved to my hands, then let me sow, and let another eat. Yea, let my offspring be rooted out. If mine heart have been deceived by a woman, or if I have laid wait at my neighbor's door, then let my wife grind unto another, and let others bow down upon her. For this is an heinous crime, yea, it is an iniquity to be punished by the judges. For it is a fire that consumeth to destruction, and would root out all mine increase. If I did despise the cause of my manservant, or if my maidservant, my maidservant, when they contended with me, what then shall I do when God riseth up? And when he visiteth, what shall I answer him? Did not he that made me in the womb make him? And did not one fashion us in the womb? So here we're hearing about how even as man and maidservants, his servants, he knows that even they are human like him, and to be treated just and right. Like he's lived his life correctly and done correctly. It's like, things happening to him is an unjust punishment for something that he didn't do. If he just, what is it? Says, why did this come upon me? He's still questioning this, but also defending himself, talking about, hey, don't you know who I am? Don't you know the life I've lived? Don't you know how I've helped people? I've helped the blind, the lame, the poor. I treat my servants well. They don't despise me or nothing. It's like, like, who do you think you're talking down to here? You know my life. You've seen me. You've seen my walk, That's what he keeps telling these people. And, but we'll get more into that. Let's go ahead and finish up here. At the start of the next lesson, whenever, that they keep quiet, that's when I think it's Elishu or Elishu or something like that. It says, so their young person starts speaking because they want to be heard. That's not even part of the conversation. Anyways, that's the one God really just gets mad at. It's this young person that speaks next in the next lesson. But anyway, 60. If I have withheld the poor from their desire, or have caused the eyes of the widow to fail, or have eaten my morsel myself alone, and the fatherless have not eaten thereof, for from my youth he was brought up with me as with a father, and I have guided her from my mother's womb. If I have seen any perish for want of clothing, or any poor without covering, if his loins have not blessed me, and if he were not warmed with the fleece of my sheep, if I have lifted up my hand against the fatherless, when I saw my help in the gate, then let mine arm fall from my shoulder blade, and mine arm be broken from the bone. For destruction from God was a terror to me, and by reason of his highness I could not endure. If I have made gold my hope, or have said to the fine gold, thou art my confidence, if I rejoice because my wealth was great, and because mine hand was gotten much. So here's that other thing, talking about he's not lived a vanity life. It's like, look at what all I have. I'm better than, he didn't live that way at all. He never put what he had above, That's who he is, and that's who made him what he is what he has. He's like, it's never been him. Let's continue on. 26. If I beheld the sun when it shined, or the moon walking in brightness, if my heart hath been secretly enticed, or my mouth hath kissed my hand, this also were an iniquity to be punished by the judge, for I should have denied the God that is above. If I rejoiced at the destruction of him that hated me, or lifted up myself when evil found him, neither have I suffered my mouth to sin by wishing a curse to his soul. If the men of my tabernacle said not, all that we had of his flesh, we cannot be satisfied. The stranger did not lodge in the street, but I opened my doors to the traveler. If I covered my transgressions as Adam by hiding my iniquity in my bosom, did I fear a great multitude, or did the contempt of families terrify me, that I kept silence and went not out of the door? Oh, that one would hear me. Behold, my desire is that the Almighty would answer me, and that mine adversary had written a book. So I said that book part is like, write down what I did wrong. The one who's charging me. He just wants to wonder why God doesn't hear him. Anyways, continue on here. Surely I would take it upon my shoulder and bind it as a crown to me. I would declare unto him the number of my steps, as a prince would I go near unto him. Which, like any real human being should be, is if I did wrong, I will hold it. I will take accountability if I did wrong. Just what? God, please hear me. That's what he's asking about. It's like, answer me. What did I do? But anyways, let's continue on here. 38. If my land cry against me, or that the furrows likewise thereof complain, if I have eaten the fruits thereof without money, or have caused the owners thereof to lose their life, let thistles grow instead of wheat, and cockle instead of barley. The words of Job are ended. So, like I said, he's sitting there saying that if I did deserve this, I will, answer for it. I should answer for it, says, but I didn't. It's a very long way of saying this stuff, but, it's the wisdom he shows in his speech that silences friends, his so-called friends. But that's whenever the next person, this Elihu, I said Elisu, it's Elihu. It's like the next one starting in 32 would be Elihu's Intrusion. It's the title of it. It says that's the one that starts speaking as a young one, a young whelp speaking amongst older, wiser men. But it's just like today you have young people trying to step into a conversation with elders, thinking that I'm gonna be wise and I'm gonna show them, I'm gonna shut them up with what I got to say, because I can talk words around them. It's like, you ain't gonna do no such thing to them. You're just gonna show your immaturity, your lack of knowledge of real life. But this is why it's you need to study Scripture. That way you know what Scripture says, and someone can't deceive you with ill words. But that's the end of this lesson today. It was just a straightforward reading, but like it said, this is the Job ended his speech, ended his talking about this. And so next we're going to hear the unwise words of somebody who thinks they know, but they don't. But once again, they're going to say some things that are godly and some things that are not. his friends did this, and this Elihu is going to do the same thing in a sense, but sound even more unwise. But yeah, don't forget to pray. Never cease praying, command Scripture. Women are to adorn themselves a head covering while praying and prophesying, and men are not, and we're to never cease praying. Pray for the lost, the found, yourself, others, all people, all nations, everywhere, everything. We got family members to pray for. We have people that are lost and dying to pray for. People that have lost loved ones to pray for. Nations that are being torn apart by civil unrest to pray for. Corrupt governments that need to no longer be in place. We need to pray for that. I'm not praying, if God put that government there for a purpose, then it's a sin talking about said things. But if it's an evil dictatorship causing harm to the innocent, is the one I'm talking about. Not the one trying to get an unjust society back under control and having to use the heel of the boot to do so. Sometimes that's unnecessary. But so I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the ones where the innocent are hurting because of a tyrannical government. We got to pray for those people that they get relief from said people, one way or the other. But they also must come to know of Christ and put Him over their lives. Many people, many things to pray about. I always pray before making decisions and doing things in life. Give God all praise, glory, and worship, and thanks in everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the indifferent. Like I said, that's the end of this lesson here today. So until next time, God bless, good day, and goodbye.